So many of you have been coming into my stream, twitch.tv/cybear_TV, down in the description below, and asking me a lot about how to play Feral Druid in 9.2, what stat weights do I want, where am I putting my Legendary, all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to break all that down and give you a bit of a rotation guide as well towards the end of the video. Now, many of you also come to me and ask about how to improve your own gameplay, right? And how you can get better at using cooldowns or when to use certain abilities and spells and whatnot. And that's why I want to recommend SquadOV to you who are sponsoring this video today. It's a great piece of software that you can download and automatically record your gameplay all for free. You can record your keys, your arena matches, your raid bosses, all automatically, and then go back and review this, like, spell uses at particular times, certain pulls that you did, all sorts of incredible information using SquadOV. There'll be a link down in the description, but I definitely recommend it. It's something that I use personally. It's something that I think you would all really enjoy in order to review your own gameplay. Okay, so starting things off then, let's jump straight into stat weights. So, in general, crit mastery is what you are aiming for in both Raid and Mythic Plus, though you should always sim. The answer is always going to come down to you should sim. A lot of people come in and say, oh, I have this much crit, is it too much? I have this much haste, is it too much, too little, and whatnot. I cannot answer those questions. Your gear will constantly, or the stats that you want will constantly shift based on the gear that you have available to you, so you should be using sims to best answer that. But in general, it's crit, then mastery, then verse, then haste, but you should always sim. In terms of talents, this is what you are running in single target here, right? This is like pure single target. A lot of people run Wild Charge, that's fine. You can run any of these affinities. You can run any of these here. Heart of the Wild will technically increase your damage with Owlweaving, and I'll get into that at the end of this video here as well. Soul is pretty much locked in. Brutal Slash is locked in single target, and then Blood Talons is locked in as well. So the three in the middle are what's really locked in. Everything else, and Soul, sorry, everything else you can kind of freebie move around however you want. In keys, this is what you would play. So you just switch to using Primal Wrath. However, I've been playing this build. And the reason I've been playing this build is because I feel like with the buffs to swipe, Moment of Clarity now is in a position where it's not that far behind Blood Talons to the point where I can play it. And I like to stream and have an easier time playing so that I can talk more with chat. So that's why I like to play this build, because I think it's alright. I hate playing Blood Talons and keys with Apex and Frenzy and stuff. Like, I just don't really enjoy it. You can run Predator. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, because I think Sabretooth is better, because we're getting a lot of Predator resets from 1 minute Convoke is giving us Tiger Fury, right? If we don't align it with our current Tiger Fury, which sometimes you don't always do that in keys, it doesn't always sync up. So you're getting it from 1 minute Convoke, you get it every 30 seconds anyway, and then you're getting it from as well, and you're killing constantly throughout dungeons. So I think that's fine to run Sabretooth instead, because then you just get extra damage. You don't really need the resets of Tiger Fury where you're getting it a bunch anyway. So those are pretty much like your build options. In terms of like Covenants and Soulbinds and things then, so this is what you'd be running. You'll be running Nia. You'll be running Night Fae. This is the setup that you would go, more or less. The utility traits you can technically move around. The defensive traits you can move around as well if you wanted to, but I do think Well-Honed Instincts is pretty busted. And then on top of that, running Convoke or Conflux, running Carnivorous Instinct, and running Taste for Blood. This is what I run in every piece of content. I wouldn't really recommend using the other two. There's no real need when Nia's just like the best. So you can run a Necro build as well. Some people are playing Necro. Hippo is a good example of somebody who's playing Necro. I have played it in a key with a Sabretooth, like, with a build like this, and I didn't like it. If I played it like that, I maybe would have liked it a lot more. So I would have actually been pretty good. Oh, well, no, sorry, I played that build, right? Sabretooth, Savage Roar, Primal, right? But if you played that, then I think it's a lot more, like, it's a lot easier to play. It just didn't feel realistic, kind of maintaining Savage Roar and Bleeds with Circle in a Necro build. But that's what you'd run. You'd run Necro, you'd run Savage Roar, you'd probably run that. You can run Sabretooth, though I personally probably wouldn't, because you're not biting that much anyway, so give a shit about Sabretooth, right? Get more energy for more abilities with Predator. But you'd run Circle of Life and Death, you can put it on your ring, and you'd be running that. And that's pretty much like the deal. But in terms of Legendary, I have Apex and Frenzy Band, assuming we're playing Nia, right? We're playing, sorry, Night Fae. Then I have Frenzy Band and Apex both on my belt. That way I can just easily swap between the two with ease, and I never have to worry about changing a gear slot there. So that's really good. Unity, I currently have on braces, but I made this really early on. The best place to have it is, I see a lot of people putting it on Helm, because you can get a 285 chest piece, I believe. So it's better to leave your chest piece as a tier piece, and then put your Helm as your Legendary of Unity. However, I haven't done that yet. I may eventually do it, but I can't do that, because otherwise it would remove my 4 set. I might do that eventually, I might not, we'll see. I probably will. In terms of Trinkets, then IQD is really good. Sigil from Pantheon is really good. I think Elegy is also pretty good, but not like Biss. But if you go Sigil, IQD is really good. This Cash is great in Mythic Plus if you're doing the Bleed. There's also a weak aura for it that I will put in the description down below to help track when it's going to be the Bleed. Earthquake is really good. Or Earthbreakers. I've seen it sim well on single target for me, as well as in AoE. I don't personally enjoy using it, though. It's really difficult to kind of see those Earthquake tectonic plate points, the weak points that you have to go and stand on. But you can sim Trinkets as well, or use something like Blood Mallet is solid, so, you know, you can do something like that. It's fine. In terms of then single target rotation, so I'll just kind of do some target dummy stuff. So, playing this build, right, and playing Frenzy, like, you'd play, okay, I didn't really cover this. You'd play Frenzy Band in Raid, you'd play Apex in Mythic Plus. However, when you get to, like, if it's a Tyrannical week, if you're doing a key above a 22 and it's a Tyrannical week, I would suggest maybe playing Frenzy Band, so you have more boss damage where it's actually needed. It's more important to time the key by killing the bosses than to say, oh, number bigger on the overall, right? Don't play for the overall, play for what makes sense with the key. So I would personally run Frenzy Band so like that's what I'm doing this week. It's the Tyrannical week right now. It's Tyrannical, Sanguine, Storming, Encrypted, right? So, but anything below like a 22, so if you're doing a 21 or lower than that, then I would honestly just run Apex, because even with the additional boss damage you might get from Frenzy Band, you're basically going to be gimping yourself in AoE, because things aren't going to be living long enough for your Frenzy Band to really get a whole lot of value, and bosses die quite reasonably quickly in anything beneath the 22 anyway, so you can probably afford to just run Apex, and it might even be a bit lower than that, but basically if you're doing 15 keys, 17 keys, anything like that, I would just flat out run Apex. And then if you're starting to get into some high level Tyrannical keys, then Frenzy Band can be an option. Frenzy Band also a decent option in AoE as well on Fortified weeks when things live 30 seconds. So you actually get your full bleed duration and your Berserk window. But, and in which case you'd be like swiping in AoE and stuff, right? But probably just run Apex in general. Right, so let's just do a little bit of target dummy. I'm going to go through the rotation. So the big thing in your opener is establishing your Blood Talons, getting your Rip on the target, berserking and convoking. That's the big thing. During your berserk window, you can bite at 25 energy. You don't have to pool to 50 energy. If you read the tooltip of Ferocious Bite and what it does additional damage if you pool to 50 energy. But during your berserk, you can just use it on 25 energy. It's not the end of the world. If you use it on 50 energy, that's fine too. Don't sweat it. Something that I've been doing for a long time, incorrectly actually, is during Berserk window, I've been biting at 4 combo points instead of 5. So if I shred and I don't crit, then I would bite at 4 combo points. But I've recently found out that that's actually not correct. And so, you know, you can always learn new things, right? There's always room to improve. So Make sure that you're at 5 combat points on single target. If you are at 4 combat points, you've just shredded, you didn't crit, bummer, use a Brutal Slash. It'll take you up to 5. Bada bing, bada boom. In general, I will Tiger Fury, then Berserk, then Rip, then I'll Shred Bite, and then I'll Convoke, right? To try and drop some of that energy down and then Convoke with it. But let's go through it now. So I'll Rake, I'll Thrash, Tiger Fury, Berserk, Shred, Rip. I'll Shred, I'll Bite, then I'll send the Convoke. And then you can Bite again, and then Shred, Bite. My Rake is anywhere under half its duration, so I will re-Rake. Then I'm Shredding, waiting for 25 energy, Bite, Shred. Can get one more Bite. No, right, I'm going to pull to 50 energy now. Then I'm going to refresh my Thrash. Going to Brutal Slash. Now this was a Berserk Rake, so I'm going to let it drop off because it's empowered. Can read Tiger Fury. During my Tiger Fury, I want to use as many Brutal Slashes as possible because it's such a strong ability. Now I can re-Thrash, I can re-Rake, Brutal Slash there. Now this is a good Owlweaving opportunity. I Heart of the Wild, I Star Surge, I Sunfire, back into Cat, didn't overcap on energy. Perfect. And now I can kind of, I have a Blood Talons left still, so I'm just kind of vibing. Now I can Bite. Now I can Rake, Thrash, Shred. Now I can Tiger Fury, Bite, 2 Brutal Slashes, and then I'm going to Convoke. And then I can Bite again, Shred, refresh my Rake, Brutal Slash, back into Moonkin form, Star Surge, Sunfire, back into Cat, Shred, Shred, Bite, Thrash, Brutal Slash. Big. So you're basically going through these situations of generating Blood Talons and then expending Blood Talons, right? And when you're expending Blood Talons, you can Shred and Brutal Slash only. You don't want to be thrashing more than you have to. I'll thrash now because I got a freebie. I'll pull a little bit of energy. Now I can Rake. Now I can Shred. Now I can Brutal, right? Then I can Bite there. Always want to, on single target, always want to hold your Berserk for Convoke. Don't hold your Convokes for Berserk. You want to send your Convokes on cooldown and then hold your Berserk, right? Perfect. But that's what you're trying to do. You're going through that cyclical nature of you generating Blood Talons with Thrash, Rake, Shred. If you don't need to refresh your Rake, then you can Shred Brutal instead with Thrash. Or if you don't need to refresh your Thrash, you can Rake, Shred, Brutal. It'll always be one of those combinations. Either Thrash is able to be refreshed or Rake is able to be refreshed. It'll always be one of those situations. But hopefully that kind of helps with the single target rotation. Now I will go into more discussion on Owlweaving at the end of the video, but I kind of just weave that in because we could. Now I'll show you a bit of the AOE rotation. So if you're, I'll show you Blood Talons because if you're playing with MOC, basically in AOE, on anywhere from 1 to 3 targets, I will continue to Rake spread. But 4 or more targets, I stop raking and I just swipe. And then I will Primal Wrath spam on 4 or more targets, right? So this is for the AoE rotation. So I'll Primal Wrath on 4 or more targets, and I'll spam it. Even if the mobs already have Primal Wrath going, I will still use Primal Wrath as a finisher instead of Bite, because it does more damage, more energy efficient, bada bing, bada boom. Get more Berserk cooldown off because you're consistently using more finishers and stuff as well. So it's good in that regard. Helps you get more Berserks overall in a key, which will help your overall DPS. I'll show you the Blood Talons rotation because MOC, like I say, is super easy, and I'll show you a little bit of that at the end. But basically in AoE, again, looking to generate Blood Talons, then you look to Berserk, then you can Convoke, whatnot, then you go back into your normal rotation. During Berserk, on like large AoE, if I'm running Frenzy Band, then I would swipe in AoE. So, you know, it depends. I changed my mind. Like, I'm still kind of figuring that out. But anywhere from like 6 or more targets, I'll just swipe. Or like 5 or more targets, I'll just swipe. 4 targets, I don't know. Is it beneficial to swipe instead of shredding? I'm actually not 100% sure. But play around with it yourselves and see how you feel. So, in AoE, you're looking to generate... I'm going to play Apex here as well, by the way. You're looking to generate Blood Talons, use Blood Talons, use Blood Talons, generate Blood Talons, right? And you go in that nature. Generate, use, generate. Because you have 2 charges, obviously. So when you're generating, again, similar to single target, you want to rake, thrash, swipe, or thrash, swipe, shred, or something like that, right? If everything has rake on it for whatever reason. So you want to get into that rhythm of generating, and then when you've already got a Blood Talons available, then you can just swipe. Imagine this is more than 4 targets, right? I'm going to imagine this is like mass AoE. If it was anywhere from 1 to 3 targets, I'd continue to rake spread, but I'm going to imagine that this is like heavy AoE, okay? So I'd go in, I'd rake, I'd thrash, I'd swipe, I can Tiger Fury, Berserk. Now I can just send it with a Convoke. Primal Wrath. Now I've still got a Blood Talons available, so I can just swipe. We get a Bite proc. I can rake. I can thrash here. Sorry. During Berserk window, I'll just don't worry about my Blood Talons. But now we're coming out of that, so now I can rake, I can thrash, I can swipe. Now, I was going to overcap on combo points there, so in mass AoE, I don't mind, like, not having a Blood Talons in AoE, that's fine. But now I got to generate again here. Everything is thrash on them, so I'm not going to re-thrash because it kind of sucks. Now I've still got 1 Blood Talons left available, so I'm just going to be swiping. Nice Apex proc. I can swipe there. Now I can rake, thrash, swipe, Primal Wrath, swipe, swipe, swipe. Now I can Owlweave here if I want. I'm not even going to do a Heart of the Wild, but just a little Sunfire back into Cat. Then I can rake, get the Apex proc there, cool. Now, if I was only fighting like 4 targets, imagine I was only fighting 4 targets, one thing I like to do is to ensure like I get good Convokes, then anywhere up to like 5 targets, when I go in, I will pre-spread my rakes, so that during my Convoke window, hopefully I'm fishing more so for shreds and bites, right? But you can see, I mean, this is basically the rotation, like generating Blood Talons. Obviously, getting these Apex procs, which kind of messes with Blood Talons a little bit, but it's really not the end of the world. Really not the end of the world. I mean, refreshing Primal Wrath without Blood Talons isn't the end of the world in mass AoE, because you're looking for that on-hit damage anyway in mass AoE, you know, just consistently getting big Primal Wraths consistently. Now, yeah, so imagine that this is actually just fighting 1 to 4 targets. What I would do, so like anything that isn't just considered mass AoE, what I would do is I would go into combat, so I can rake, I can thrash, I can swipe. Imagine that I started with no combo points. Then I can Tiger Fury, then I can rake, Berserk, rake. I'll use that Apex proc, then I can Convoke. Now this Convoke, hopefully, yeah, see, so 4 shreds and 2 ferocious bites. So by pre-rake spreading, I'm gonna ultimately get more shreds and bites during my Convoke Berserk window. So that's why I like to do that. So that's kind of the AoE rotation there. In terms of Owlweaving and how to do it, so what you would do is you want to find moments where you have less than 40 energy and you don't have like Tiger Fury available or Convoke available, right? If you have a cooldown available that will restore energy to you, then you want to get that on cooldown as quickly as possible so that you get more of them in any given scenario, any given fight, right? So you don't want to hold a Convoke or a Tiger Fury to Owlweave. That's just silly, because you're trading some damage, like you're trading strong damage for less damage. A lot of people, when they're Owlweaving, they come into my stream and they're like, oh, what's this business with Owlweaving? How do I do it? What do I do? Focus on mastering Feral and the Feral side of Feral, and then worry about Owlweaving, because Owlweaving over the course of a whole key will be an extra couple percent, like 2 to 3% of your overall. So don't go overboard with it, because if you're not good at the Feral rotation and you're trying to Owlweave, then you're just going to lose damage. You're going to do more damage with your cat abilities. But In running Apex and keys, I don't feel like Owlweaving is a good thing to do because you can get procs whilst you're in owl form, right? So for me, if I'm running Apex, I don't Owlweave. If I'm running Frenzy Band, then yeah, potentially I will, if I can be bothered, right? But basically what you do, so you go into combat, you rake, thrash, do that, right? I'll go through the rhythm, finding an opportunity where I'm actually low energy. So I can bite there, and then I can shred, and then now that's where I would Owlweave, that's where I would Star Surge and Sunfire. I messed up there because I didn't use Heart of the Wild, but you do it with Heart of the Wild, right? So like, here's a good opportunity there. So I got all my bleeds on the target. Now I can Star Surge Sunfire, back into Cat. I haven't overcapped. That works there. And then we're good there. And then I'll wait a second, I'll refresh this rake. Because I don't want rake to drop off. If your bleeds are dropping off whilst you're Owlweaving, you've lost damage. So don't do those things, right? You don't want to trade one form of damage for less damage. You can go again here. Star Surge, Sunfire. A lot of people ask me as well if I have any macros for doing these. No. I mean, I guess you could make one, but you'd have to press just as many buttons. So I don't know how valuable it is. But yeah, that's basically how you do it on like single target. Obviously, it's, you know, I'm in AOE stuff right now, but that's how you do it on single target. In Mythic Plus, it's the same thing, where you can do that. But hopefully this was like a good, solid Feral Druid guide, an insight into stats, legendaries, covenants, everything that you can kind of have going on, as well as rotations. Hopefully you enjoyed as well the SquadOV segment. I think it's a fantastic tool. You should definitely check it out. It's down in the description below. Thank you to them for sponsoring this video. The guys at SquadOV are just absolutely fantastic. I love working with them, and they're just really accommodating, really great, really helpful. And yeah, you should definitely check out the program. It's 100% free during beta. Download it, and you can join squads with guildies or team members, you know, like friends that you do keys with and whatnot, or if you do arena, or even if you play other games. They do other games as well, not just WoW. You can, it automatically records your gameplay, and then you can rewatch it whenever you want and go through. It even records comms and everything and music. So like, it just can record everything for you. So you can go back and, oh, what were we saying at that point? What was said there? Did anyone call that kick? Did we not? Did we miss that mechanic? Did that bug? Was I in that? Was I not? It's really, really good for going and checking that stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Hopefully these videos have been helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.